So funnily enough, obviously there's still enough leadership in that book, because you can't do solution focus without leadership in a way. So it is just ingrained. If you talk solution focused way to your people, you lead in a different way. First, we would like to know your best hopes. So maybe you can write a little short notice into the chat, into the Zoom chat. What are your best hopes for this session with us?
Very good. Thank you very much. We want to invite you to observe very carefully if you get something for your best hopes, and to share it with us at the end of this meeting. So that would be great.
There you see this new book in English. Cover is by Irene, one of our office workers. She is our creative director, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And it's about...
originally, this book has been written in German language, and the first version of it came out in 2015. And at the moment, the German version is going for the 4th edition already. So this is the 3rd edition, because the 4th one is not out yet. Yeah, and we hope you will like the book if you get it into your hands. We will get you 2 by 2 into breakout rooms, and we'll ask you to answer the question and tell a bit to your conversation partner. What have you done well in the last 2 weeks? What are you proud of? We got this idea from Nancy Klein. She's a positive psychologist and wrote a book. This is called Time to Think. Here you can see it. And she writes in her book that if you start each meeting with the people saying loudly something true and positive about their own experience, they are more creative, more productive, more can do better discussions in the meeting. And this we know for several years now, and we start everything that we do with something true and positive at the beginning. So this can be something from the past. It can be something general. So what do you like about your work or something? And it can be something about the future. So what can be a very good moment in this year till the end of the year or something.
And since you want to know, what we do with teams, this this start is a game changer in a lot of team setting situations. And when you start with something true and positive in planning meetings, in retrospectives, in whatever project meetings you have, the people are just a lot more engaged. And it's clear because they say something they did well. So this shows their self-worthiness to everyone else in the meeting. Yeah, and so that creates a good start in this respect.
And it's a bit unusual for many people because normally they talk about the problems they have, things that have not been well, etc. And if you ask them for something true and positive, so this is at the first moment a bit unusual, but people get used to it, and it's easier and easier the more often you do it.
And you want to know where this all comes from. So agility. I stopped this because it's about our story, and maybe it's better to see us. Yeah.
I don't know.
So my background is that I used to be a so-called agile coach. In 2005, I was introduced to Scrum, which is a particular way of working with teams in order to create better projects. And that went well at the company I was working at the time. And over the years, I became an in-house consultant, and the quality assurance department asked us to build a process proposal for way of working agile at Siemens. I can say that it's public, at Siemens Austria, and so that was my main adventure. And then in 2009 there were loads of shifts at Siemens going around, and I decided I will leave the company. And with the leaving money I got, I paid for coaching education. It's the best investment you can do. Yeah. So that's basically the start of my story. So I did this coaching education, and there was a lot of solution focus already in this education. It wasn't just about solution focus. And I learned about a seminar with Peter Szabo. You know Peter Szabo, of course. And he was in Vienna, and I decided I will go there.
Yeah, I used to be a ground school teacher in my very early life of working. And later I switched to an insurance company and did a trainee program for leadership people there. You know, I studied next to my job. I studied on the university, and it was a course that was called Solution Focused Management and Coaching, a master degree. Okay. And after I finished with my master's degree, I worked with Günther Lueger, who is an Austrian solution-focused practitioner. And I worked in his institute with him. And he ran the workshop or the seminar with Peter Szabo in 2012. So, and because Peter Szabo is one of my earliest mentors and teachers, I really appreciate his work and himself as a person very much. I said, I want to run the course, please, with Peter Szabo. I want to do the course management around it, take care for the people and food and drinks and everything. Yeah, and this is where we met.
So Peter's responsible that everything that's happened in the way it did. So, or Günther or whoever, but so we met, and we enjoyed our company obviously a lot. That we're still together 10 years later, and it happened that we compared kind of notes. What is this agile that I'm working on? What is this solution focus? Veronika is a big fan of. Yeah, see, Peter was my spark too. Yes, and so I invited Veronika to come along to a Agile Coach Camp. Agile Coach Camp in Germany. That is where these computer weird geeks kind of meet in order to talk about how to do better Agile coaching.
And I said, yes, so that's gonna be fun. Okay. I was in love, so I came with him.
And at that, and there, I did a really weird thing there. I said, I will go to some technical sessions, and Veronika, I recommend to you this session on coaching. This is probably interesting for you.
Yes, well, I went into the session, in this coaching session, and of course it was run in English. My English was not really good in this time because I wasn't used to talk in English. I had nothing to practice it in my life at this time. And so I didn't talk a lot, but I listened a lot. And then someone said something that I did not agree with. So I had to say something, and I did. And I talked about solution focus, and people were listening, and they wanted to know more about it. And they found it useful, what I told them. And so it happened that people found useful what I had to bring. I began to be interested what this agile thing is. So I started to listen myself about these agile things. And the more I learned, the more I realized that this agile kind of work and this solution-focused kind of work fits together like, don't know, help me, perfect. And we came back home to Vienna and took out the flip charts, and we started writing on the parallels of agile and solution focus. and we were like in a flow and couldn't stop writing. And Ralph had a customer in Switzerland in this time.
And I was still about to finish my master's degree in coaching.
Right.
And I decided, in the HR community, where could you apply coaching the best in all the settings? And my idea was, this is the so-called retrospective meeting. A retrospective is something where people normally look back, what went well, what didn't go so well in the last 2-3 weeks in the last so-called sprint. And in practice, there is a lot of, how do I say, complaining, not moving forward, moaning, a lot of situations where people just don't get out of their problems. And with all the solution focus, I knew there could be something better in it. So I just moved our presentation it's close to the end, but never mind. And this was what came out of it. So on the left-hand side, you see how normally a retrospective used to be run. This is a 5-step process, is by Diana Larson and Esther Derby, 2 great people in the HR community. I love them, really. And they developed this model. It's called set the stage, gather data, generate insights, decide what to do, and closing. And this was the go-to model. Everyone was running retrospectives exactly to that way. And we sat together and we said, come on, this could be twisted into a solution-focused approach. Yeah. And set the stage, we said we need to do something different in the opening. The opening in the classic set the stage is, okay, let's give appreciation, let's do this or that. And our opening, you just saw and experienced yourself, we switched it to something true and positive.
Glad Mad Sad is one of the favorite exercises for a start in the retrospective. So if you heard before from this true and positive thing, you should start with something positive, and you have glad, mad, sad. So you have 1 positive and 2 negative things. If you start this way, it's perfectly clear that people start moaning more than being proud of something or talk about positive side.
So the gather data also, that usually looks back in the past. Sometimes they're happy to ask what went well. Most of the times they say, what didn't go well in the last 2 weeks? And we said, come on, solution focused, we would look towards a goal. We want to know, what do you want to achieve instead? Yeah, where do you want to go? And that was the first twist. So
we didn't look back, but we looked forward. Generate insights does mean what do the bad things from the past tell us? So where do they come from? You know, all these questions.
Analyze the problem.
Analyze the problem, something we usually don't do in the solution-focused way of working. So we switched already the data from the past to the future. What is the future data we want to have? It's the goal. And so we analyzed our future data. We started to analyze the goal by clarifying the impact. What will be different if we reached the goal?
The 4th point, we agree totally. Decide what to do is a good thing. Yeah. However, we said we want to go a bit step further. So initiate actions was more the wording that we choose. It's not just who does what when, but it's even a bit more of a drive. And then
the closing is normally it's so like what do you get out of this meeting? What
return of time invest is one of the favorite exercise classically.
Yeah. We say, well, we don't think you know already at the end of a meeting what your return of time invested can be, because change doesn't happen in the meeting, but between the meetings, as we all know. And so we decided to switch to the review confidence scale. So we ask, how confident are you that we will do the next actions within the next sprint or iteration? And what would bring us 1 step higher in this confidence?
Okay. So a few remarks. First of all, we do call it in practice solution-focused retrospectives.
This is a bit weird, is it?
Yeah, it's a perspective. We look forward. However, nobody is searching on the internet for perspectives. Yeah. In order to achieve our goal of reaching people, we need to call it still a retrospective.
So now we call them solution-focused retrospectives, which is kind of, yeah, you know, but people find us. So.
Secondly, as solution-focused practitioners, you definitely see that there's something missing. Yeah. So,
who has an idea? What's missing here in a proper solution-focused communication? Okay.
Resource feedback. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Preferred future. That is in fine goal. Yeah.
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 Scale. We use them. Yes. Thank you. In the practice.
So what was missing for us was to talk about what works already. So this was the thing we said, well, we don't have that in here in our model. And so we put it in as a step number 3. We took up number 3 to number 2. So we have a big number 2 now, clarify goal and impact. And to have still 5 steps, because people are used to 5 steps when they do retrospectives, so we put in number 3, collect what works already. And this made a huge difference. It really made a huge difference. People started to collect what do they already have
with respect
to reach the goal.
Yeah, and that's why it's not in the opening. Just to answer or to answer Franziska's question, is this not in the opening? In the opening, it just what went well, what are you proud of? But when you have a goal, this what works is just with respect to the goal. So it's not what works in general, but just what works towards achieving our goal.
Yeah, what do we already have to reach the goal?
And
so
a nice
don't
little
start at 0 or 0 on the scale, but we are already on our way.
And since some Kathleen, you said, you know, the scaling is missing, or also Greiner, the miracle we use in clarify goal and impact, for example, if this is necessary. Yeah. Or the scale we use in collect what works and initiate actions. So we do use the techniques in this in the steps as practices, but there are more practices possible. So this was that was kind of the start. The solution-focused retrospective. And so we went to conferences talking about solution-focused retrospectives.
And people really were interested. So we didn't get the door closed. So many Scrum Masters wanted to learn about this new kind of retrospective. Yeah, we have something we haven't done with them yet. We can use something new. So yeah, the interest was there.
So suddenly we were asked by a friend and co-practitioner in the HR community, Mark Löffler. He was at the stage of writing a book on retrospectives, more retrospective practices. And he invited us, and we wrote a chapter on solution-focused retrospectives.
This chapter was read by people from the publisher. And they liked it so much that the publisher addressed us and asked if we would write a book about solution-focused retrospectives.
But you know, solution-focused, you can be very brief. Yeah. So we had this 17 pages on solution-focused retrospectives.
That was it.
What more to tell? So we said, no, not really. We can't write a whole book on solution-focused retrospectives. It's just impossible. There's not so much more to say. But we can write a book of, helping HR teams with solution focus. That is possible. And we called it initially
Leading and Coaching Agile Teams. Yeah. So, and in this time, it was 2014. It was not very popular to put the word leading and agile teams into one title of a book, because agility doesn't need leadership. So this was the kind of thinking in 2014.
And we were devastated, because we wrote a book on leading and coaching. And it took us about 2 or 3 months until we got out of this thing. And because it was a bit of a depression, but then with our solution focused mindset, we said, come on, we want to publish our work on solution focus. So let's focus on the coaching side. And so we rewrote the whole thing to coaching agile teams. And
the book was half finished when the publisher lady called us and said, you know what, I've been to a big conference, and you know what the biggest topic there was? Leadership in agile environments. You said, okay, stop, no, we don't start over again. This is a book on coaching for agile teams now.
So, so funnily enough, obviously there's still enough leadership in that book, because you can't do solution focus without leadership in a way. So it is just ingrained. If you talk solution focused way to your people, you lead in a different way. And one thing we developed then was the solution focused, our pyramid. Mm-hmm. You will find that in the book. The idea came about in the one training that we had, when we said we need to have a picture that people visualize a solution focused conversation. How does it run? Because they were always asking us. We gave them all the questions, but they needed a picture. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and the solution-focused pyramid is our picture of a solution-focused conversation. It is placed on the ground. That is the topic, and the topic is grown after in the time. And it has kind of stones and holes and grass and whatever you want. So it looks like it looks. So it is what it is. And for the pyramid, for having the pyramid stable on it, we shouldn't put holes into the ground, into the topic. So we don't ask questions. We don't ask why questions into the topic. Okay? We just listen and appreciate the topic, or that someone has a problem with something. We start asking questions in the first level of the pyramid.
And this first level is on goals and impact. I mean, you know all the solution-focused conversation, so you see also the rest of the conversation. Most importantly, why a pyramid for us is because, first of all, we bring every conversation to the top. And secondly, a second conversation is a new beginning. So that's why it's not a circle. Every conversation has a new beginning, has a new topic, and we start from where we started. That's why this is our model conversation. And there are little things in this pyramid. Goals and impact, if you look at the pyramid, this is the biggest part. And most of solution-focused conversation have half the time just on identifying goals and impacts, to clarify, platform building. Jenny and Mark used to say, this is the platform of the rest of the pyramid. What works is important to build the next step on it. So that's why this is our model.
We talk about solution focus, and we want to work solution focused and not problem focused. So we analyze the goal and go for the solution, and we do not analyze the problem side. So this is what's the difference in solution focused, or the biggest difference in solution focused work to us. That doesn't mean at the same time that we avoid talk about problems. We appreciate the problem as the basis for our goals, as the basis for our solutions.
So, and that's why we share this with you. Maybe you don't know, or maybe you do, where the word problem comes from. The word problem is an old Greek word, and it's compound of pro and blem. And pro is something very positive normally, isn't it? We have pros and contras, and pro. For. And blem is something to play. It's like a ball you play around with. And problem It's something you play until you can solve it. It's a riddle, it's a puzzle. So a problem is something that is put forward for solution. And in that way, and we love this as an interpretation for what the word problem means. In this way, it is actually very solution focused. You know, we play until we solve it. Great thing. And it was only a monk late in the 1800 that turned a problem into something that is fixed and unsolvable in some articles that were then put forward, and you know how messages spread. So we like to reinforce the old version of problem in a sense of something put forward to solution. And we all know the saying, you know, if someone comes with a problem, they do have somewhere deep in their mind an idea of a solution.
An idea of what is better.
An idea of what could be better, what could be different. Otherwise, they wouldn't come to us coaching. They wouldn't do this. So this is where the word problem originates.
If we work in companies, in where you go to companies as an agile coach, they very often have the big topic of agile transformation. So if you come to an agile transformation, this transformation, this need of change is very often motivated with an away from language. So if we don't change, we won't be on market in 5 years or something like that. And what people hear and understand is that their work was not good enough until now. That they have to change, that they have no possibility to skip or to be against something. So because this is done with fear and with demotivation, more or less. And first, what we do is that we don't call agile transformations, because a transformation is something that makes an A into a B or into something very different. We talk about agile evolution, because an evolution is something that builds on things that are already there. And this company, no matter what company it is, has its history and has its successes, and is built by people who care and who did care and who do good work after all.
Maybe another thing to this picture also. Just imagine.
Oh yes, the bomb.
Imagine you're sitting. We're all sitting together in a room or on a field, and someone says, similar to "we need to change." They say, "There's a bomb." What would you do? What would you do if someone says there is a bomb?
Find the door. Okay, on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the room. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So you would ask where. Okay.
Okay. Wow. Most of the time we hear run
away.
Indeed.
Yes,
Indeed,
okay.
Isabel. Most of the time people say we run. In which direction do you all run? Normally, we all run in different directions. We try to get away as far away. All running to.
All are running to.
Towards shelter, indeed, yeah. So most of the time, if we're in a free space in the field, people would probably run in all directions until they're safe, yeah, till there's shelter. What do people do afterwards? What we often hear is they turn around and see what's happening and so on. Yeah, exactly. Furthest away from the fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and maybe see what's happening. Our change agent who kind of dropped the bomb,
somewhere,
they're happy. Oh, people moving fast, great, lot of action, brilliant. I did a good job as a change agent because now people are moving. This is the so-called bomb of when they say there's a fire in the house, we will go bankrupt if we don't change, and so on and so on. Now, when the fire is down, what will people do afterwards? normally they go back to the old habits they used to have before.
Sit down and keep on working.
And we wonder why a company, after so much energy, has not really changed.
So the Agile coach leaves someone because mission accomplished, and the company starts to move backwards to old habits.
And
so
that's
this is what we see.
That's what we see again and again. And with classical change agents, we had so many discussions. You're solution-focused change agents. You know this is not going to work anyway. Yeah? And you know that it needs to be, more like this. More like this. Yeah. How should change be motivated? By a towards language. We want to reach for the stars, at least, and we reach the moon. Yeah, we want to go to the stars to reach the moon. In this case, in our picture, if we say, come on, let's move to this better world, to this better future, brighter, preferred future, as we call it, everyone will move in the same direction.
They start moving slowly because they have to think about what is in for me, what is in for the company, how will it look like if we reached our goal. But they will start to move in the same direction, and they will keep moving until they
reach it, but in a way we never reach it. Maybe that's where Matthias comes in. Matthias
Yes.
Wager from Tibet, some of you might know him. He says about solution focus.
It's not about being solution focused or not being solution focused. It's about being every single day a tiny bit more solution focused than yesterday. And we like this sentence very much. And we adapted it to agility. It's not about being agile or not being agile. It's about keeping up the work to be every day a tiny little bit more agile than yesterday. So this is what it's about.
That's what we
start with the picture of the goal. What can it be if we all keep on our way to agility?
So, and yes, we all know people might move slower. You know, they need to find a meaning in why they should change. You know, and we have this in conversations often. Why should we change? This is all working well anyway, and so on and so on. But you know, if they are not on the way together with everyone else, there comes these disturbances. There comes this, let's protect what we've got. Yeah. And so if we prevent if we want to prevent this reaction, we need to incorporate these people in any change. Yeah. So what is it you want to warn us about? What do you try to protect? And let you show that we are also caring about what needs to be protected. And in that way, we get into this HR transition, in any transformation, transition, evolution, a lot better and easier. And so in the book, we present the solution-focused approach, we present questioning techniques, we present other interventions.
We talk about agility. What is it and what isn't it? What is an agile coach? What does he do and what doesn't he do? We talk about teams, of course. So we try to explain the wording from our point of view, of course, because there are so many different ways of understanding out there in the world.
And then, we talk about conflict resolution, because in any agile team, there are conflicts, which is normal. I mean, conflict to us is a great chance to improve things, to move forward. This is a basis of improvements. If we look at history, a lot of conflicts helped us to move forward when they get resolved constructively. And then about team development and about all these agile meetings.
One-on-one coachings as well, because if you work with teams, you work with individuals. The team is not an individual, but a sum of individuals.
This is the very first value pair of the Agile Manifesto. The Agile Manifesto has 4 values
and 12 principles.
And the top most important value is individuals' interactions are more important than processes and tools. And that's where all the solution focused work is in it. So this is where our work basically is based on exactly this very first value pair, that individuals and interactions are more important than process and tools.
I'm just wondering if there's anything else. I'll just say what else, right? About working with teams, aside from the retrospective.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So,
thank you.
For example, we go through in chapter 8, we basically look at the most important Agile or Scrum meetings, and some extra meetings. And for example, in the planning meeting, it is very helpful to start with what are we building on? So, what works before they go into the planning. Very important, what we found is to finish a planning meeting with the confidence scale. On a scale of 0 to 10, how confident are you that you will actually accomplish this sprint plan that you just created? So people can raise last doubts and fears, and then we work on, what would make you more comfortable, more confident. In the daily Scrum
or daily stand-ups, this is a special meeting in the Scrum process where people meet every morning normally for 15 minutes. It's time boxed very strictly to talk about what has been done yesterday, what is to do today, and how can people help each other to get the stuff done for today. So where are needs and moments where someone can help.
And as an Agile coach or Scrum Master, at the end of a daily stand-up, for example, an exercise that we often do when we support teams is on a scale of 0 to 5, fist of 5, behind your back, how well did the stand-up today go? And then they show of hands, ready, steady, go. And let's say 3. What went well today? Everyone. And then the next round, suppose tomorrow it will be 1 finger better. What will be different? So we do a mini scale coaching, with the whole team, just on improving the stand-up. And that has been, if we do this for 3-4 days, they find out what is their best stand-up meeting without even telling them. In the review meeting, dear customer, on a scale of 0 to 10, how satisfied are you with what the team accomplished in the last sprint?
So review meeting does mean that after every iteration, this is all 2 or 3 weeks normally, or usually, the team meets the customer to show what has been done in the last iteration. And the customer tries out what has been done and tells what he needs, what they need, and what should be produced next in the next iteration. So all learn, the customer learns and the team learns about the value of the product.
So that's just a few examples of how we use solution focus and coaching in that setting.
And solution focused team coaching is used in every single moment where you interact with the team. So you lead through questions, in workshops, in everyday one-on-one coachings, in, whatever. So, and it's not coaching what they do, but it is using coaching techniques. It is using questions from the solution focus, and more than everything else, it's using a solution focused attitude. Yeah, a solution focused view on situations, on people. So we have in retrospectives, we have the prime directive of retrospectives, which says we truly know
and believe
that everyone did the best he or she can in every single moment.
Given the situation, the skills and knowledge at hand, the possibilities and so on. Can't recite it entirely, but it's such a solution-focused attitude to us. Yeah, that's in this prime directive.
This is focus on resources. This is, look at what people have and can and want instead of what is missing.
Yeah. Also the definition of Agile coach. Let me cite this from our book. The Agile coach is an expert for Agile methodologies, their principles and their components. The coach puts this knowledge into service for organizations and teams to sustainably support them in their development towards higher effectiveness and satisfaction. In doing so, the coach's goal is to strengthen independent solution competence as well as to trust in this competence and therefore the client's self-confidence. The coach builds up on the knowledge and expertise of the clients appreciatively and develops an individual approach together with them. If the coach experiences a role conflict or is not able to meet the requirement, they will immediately acknowledge the circumstance and actively arrange support, which is not a classic definition, but it means Agile coach does have knowledge and competences, and they can use them, however, always appreciatively to what's already there.
So an Agile coach is not a coach as we have the understanding in the solution-focused work, because he is such a coach on the one hand, and on the other hand, he is as well a trainer, he is a consultant, he is a mentor, he has very different hats to wear and to work with. And coaching is just one of his jobs he has to do.
And about coaching leadership, in particular in this agile world. In a way, it is to us classic. You know, we asked them, what would you like? How should the future look like? What are your needs, wishes? And from that, we then build on what works and next steps. You know, it's a very classic approach. Sometimes it is combined with sharing our experiences, because as an Agile coach, you're brought in because you do have experience. But we never share just one, and this is the fitting experience, but we share 2 or 3 stories, like a systemic coach occasionally does. Yeah? So they tell stories often. And
then we ask if yes, how these stories could help with their own situation of the leadership persons. And we do recommend going to a solution-focused training. So we give trainings for Agile leaders where we show them how to ask solution-focused questions, where we tell them about brain science a bit. So what do people need to cooperate? We talk about, we try out how to conduct solution-focused meetings. We practice with them how to deal with conflicts in a team in a solution-focused way. And so we work, so our trainings are for 3 days, usually, because we found out that 3 days is an amount of time that makes it necessary to stop thinking and to start feeling what solution focus is. People cannot think for 3 days. This is not possible. So after day 2, they stop thinking and they start feeling and doing it. So we do 3 days training.
So the question is, what was interesting and what questions do you still have?
So what are the most hot topics you want to quickly be talked about?
So this is not a question, really, it's an observation. And in the group that I was in, we were talking a little bit about, well, Steen's question about when you've got a leadership role. In other words, you have an agenda, you know, and as Veronika said, you wear many hats. And this is why I'm making an observation now. The power of an observation rather than a question. When you ask a question, you're putting yourself in some kind of position, but you can ask questions, you can make observations. I've noticed that when we do this, this works. And leaders can do that, but the great thing is anybody can do that. I've noticed, you know, the last time, so it's not a question, but it's an observation, which can be quite a powerful tool, especially for teams, that anybody can make an observation.
Yeah.
You have to have some kind of status, it seems, to ask a question.
And the point is that some people might not have had the same observation, and we get into a discussion there. What we say in our trainings on coaching and leading is, as a leader, you can use coaching skills and techniques, but you will never be a coach as long as you have an agenda on that topic. Because, you know, as an agile leader, you do have a goal. And as an agile coach, you also have a goal of the company being agile most of the time. That's why they get you in. And we believe it is totally okay to state your goal. Just one thing, don't ask a question until the people say what you wanted to hear anyway. Yeah, I mean, that's the worst you can do, because then they feel manipulated. If you do have a goal, state it clearly. Our goal is to reach this and this by the end of the year or by the next 2 years. And then we can go into coaching mode again. We can say, what impact will this have on our company? What impact will this have on your personal position? What impact will this have on our team? What impact will this have on our customers? These 4 positions we ask in what we call the impact analysis. Yeah, it's impact on me, on the team, on the organization, and on the customers. Yeah. And the funny thing is, this has 2 times inside, so more close, me and the team, and 2 times outside directed questions, organization and customers. And this balance is important according to the research on positive psychology, that teams are higher performant when they look inside and outside. So we put that into the questions. And then we can then go on with coaching style in leadership. Yeah. So what impact will it have? What have we achieved already? What are our next steps?
Yes, and the big rule is only ask the question if you really are interested in the answer. I think you already said this. I just wanted to to put the spot on it once more. Yeah. So self-organization is what most people understand when they talk about agile teams. So agile teams are self-organized, work self-organized. We had to do a workshop for a big company on systemical thinking and working. And we read books before because we wanted to know what is important about the systemic thinking stuff and important to us and what fits to the solution-focused way of working. And we found that 2 biologists,
Maturana and Varela, you might know them.
They made observations about what is the difference between living and dead systems. And the difference between living systems and dead systems is self-organization. So if you say a team is self-organized, this is nothing else than to say
it's alive.
It's not dead.
It's alive.
The team is alive. Hooray. It does not mean it's agile. And why is this important to us, this difference? We say agile teams work, how do we say it in English, Ralph? It's not self-organized, it's
self-managed.
It's self-managed. Agile teams work self-managed. So they can decide how they want to do their work themselves. Yeah. And this is, to us, a critical difference, because many leadership persons say, I cannot do agile with my team because it's not self-organized enough. They are not ready to work agile because they are not self-organized enough. So they keep the duty of being self-organized on the team. But the team is alive and it is self-organized. And
the funny thing is that what we know is self-organization happens according to the frame the people are in. So when they come in the morning, sit down, have coffee and chat for half an hour instead of doing proper work or whatever, yeah, that just means there's a certain frame of possibilities and they do what's possible. When they come in and don't do any innovative work, it's probably through the frame that in the past they've been criticized for wasting resources or making mistakes, loads of things. And according to all this, what they've learned, their way of self-organizing is not to do it anymore. So we need to change the frame conditions around these teams. And when they get new conditions, we can observe their new way of self-organizing. And we can hopefully shape the frame in a way that the self-organization is more to what we want, but we cannot predict it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's always just a hope in it. And that's fits so nicely solution focus again. Small steps, make small changes, observe again what happened, set a new goal, make new small steps, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there is a question, does a self-organized team have a clear leader or an agile or self-managed team, as we like to call it? We think yes, all the time, and all the time a different leader. Because in self-managed teams, everyone is leader. Everyone leads and everyone has his or her own position and leads in a different way, in a different situation.
And the funny thing about leadership is you also need to learn to follow. And that's the most tricky part for the so-called classic leaders. You know, they have unlearned to follow.
And leading and following fits together. It belongs together. You can be the biggest leader if there is no one following you, it doesn't work.
And if people follow you, you become a leader. If you have a great idea and you're after it and people say, great, and let's do this, you become a leader. Yeah, that's also a nice coincidence. And that goes then together with host leadership and with other things that you might be aware of. But so is it a clear leader? Depends on what you mean by clear, Susie, but mm-hmm. Definitely there is always a leadership going on.
There are always people leading and following.
When they are data-driven? Oh, we believe in data-driven. What we found in the Agile community, in the IT community, we get through to them, and maybe that also answers Teresa's question and mm-hmm. so on. We get through to most of our team members by telling them a lot about the research that is going on.
These are technicians. Yeah. They want to have data. So it's not the question if we believe in data. Yeah, it's the question of what do they need to listen and to think about it.
Yeah. So you will find in the book that there are loads of pages of references. Many pages of references.
10 or 12 pages.
Yeah. So you can read the stories, and this is kind of giving them the idea that solution focus is not a touchy-feeling thingy, we're hugging trees all the time and so on, but this is actual data-driven research behind it. Yeah, it works. And we don't just have data from one research direction, but we have data from so many different research directions, and they all come to the same conclusion. This is the good news. Yeah, all data says if you treat your people well, they will do well for the company and your company will do better. Yeah. There's no data that says if you treat them badly, your company will do better. And in that way, we reach our IT people because they want to know, where does it come from? How does it work? Is there enough evidence? Okay, Ralph, if I understand you right, you say leadership, having leadership is not a contradiction to self. Certainly not. Certainly not, Ralph. It is part of self-organization. It's just a certain condition on this particular team. They do have a formal leader, and let's see what self-organization happened. Of course, there's a typical way of self-organizing. Everyone will go to the leader and ask him questions and how to do this and how to do that. Now, if the leader changes their behavior of asking questions back in a solution-focused style,
and be interested in the
answers. So what have you tried already? What has worked? What would be your next step? And maybe if the leader is a person And that's something I like in HR coaching, for example. So if someone comes to me in HR coaching and says, Ralph, how do you do that? Yeah. And maybe it's even something that needs to be done on a computer. I say, come on, let's go to your computer and solve the problem at your place. Yeah. What I found over time is at some stage, they don't come to me anymore because they know they have to solve their problem at their workstation anyway. Yeah. And that's about leading. Yeah. There is a leader, but the conditions are different. So
he's not here to solve your problems. He's here to help you to solve your own problems yourself. Yeah. And this is the difference. Of course, is a classical leadership style, like I tell you what you do and you do without asking, not helpful for self-management in teams.
And the trouble is with leadership, and you know that, most of the time, the people that become leaders are the ones that did the job best in the past. Now, if you became leader in this approach in your company because you were the best at your job, of course, it hurts when you look at the others and they're not doing it the way that you do it. Yeah, that's the trouble all of the time. It's already an appointing. So you need to become in a new mindset as a leader, and that's not easy. To say my role is now different. It's not about being the best in the job anymore, but now being the best in leading the people that do the job. Mm-hmm. And in the IT business, we are in a lucky situation that learning on the job is so fast that when you don't do it anymore after a year, you're not the best in your job anymore. Yeah. So that's why the IT business is leading all these changes so much than any others.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Great. Do you have our last picture? Steve de Chazer once said, without the right attitude, it's not even a good technique. So it's all about attitude, I think. And then the right questions and the right style for agile work comes from inside and not from outside.
Which is a great comment to end on. So thank you very much indeed for that. Huge thanks to you both. Huge thanks to everybody. And if you would like to put in the chat just your appreciation, we would really love it. So we'd like to do an SF solution focus ending. So any appreciation you can give is warmly welcomed. Please feel free.